everyone, I am Matt Williamson. How are you? I am preparing for my Labor Day excursion to Deep Creek with all my high school buddies for our fantasy draft. I put that in quotes to some degree, but we do draft our fantasy teams. But it is a phenomenal getaway weekend, and we party hard and stay up by the fire late and all that good stuff. So that's what I got going on. Hope you have some fun plans Labor Day as well. We got football coming up on Thursday, the NFL season. But I got some stuff for you here today. First off, Isaac Seumalo. I mean, I guess we could look at this glass half empty, glass half full. Sure look like when you hear pec, I immediately go, oh no, torn pec, out for a year. Avoided that. That's the half full part. But another key offensive line injury to the leader of the group, the most cerebral and furthest along, and frankly, their best offensive lineman as it stands today, is brutal. I mean, I think Anderson will be a very capable replacement. It sounds like it's likely to cost him 3 or 4 games. But I said, after the Herbig injury, they can withstand it, but they can't withstand the next one. We'll see. I mean, again, this is tenuous. You're counting on a lot of really young dudes, and as good a player as Isaac is, what worries me is the leadership stuff, the stability, the veteran, that presence on the field in hostile environments, So that's a concern. It's bad news. When I'm recording this, I've got very little news on the practice squad front. Frankly, I probably will not dig super deep into practice squad guys. Some of them are players, obviously, that we're familiar with, that were in the Steeler uniforms, and that'd be great if they're back. But the final member of the practice squad is not something I'm going to spend a ton of time analyzing until they get called up or get actually used. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. To NFL season, to college kicking off, BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. If you think you know your stuff, get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, all caps, and get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. So every year, a friend of mine and someone I used to work with at ESPN, Mike Sando, who now works for The Athletic, does his quarterback tiers. And he polls 50 GMs, executives, high up people, not entry-level dudes, and asks them to put quarterbacks in 1 of 5 tiers. And Fields and Wilson both qualified because they both played a ton last year. So the Steelers were one of the few teams that had 2. And they're really well done. I urge you to go check them out, read everything. But I did want to highlight a couple things that were super Steeler related. This year, Wilson came in 22nd. And he was one of the bigger fallers. He fell down 5 spots from where he was 1 year ago in this exercise. Fields also fell, but only 2 spots. And he is the 24th ranked quarterback on these tiers. So let's start with him. If you look at, he got 1 tier 2 vote. He got 20 tier 3 votes, 25 tier 4 votes, and 4 tier 5 votes. Fields we're talking about. And this is what they say about him. A lot of good quotes on this article. I urge you to check it out. Fields is not consistent enough as a passer for voters to want him as their quarterback, but he is dangerous enough as a runner for voters to fear facing him. And here's the quotes. Fields is hard to go against, a defensive coordinator said. He can win you games if you play complementary football and if you've got the run game going. You've got play actions, keepers. I kind of want to give him a 3, but I'm not going to win you games dropping back. Voters agreed that the Bears were inconsistent in tailoring their offensive schemes to maximize what Fields did best. I think that's an understatement. Last quote. I can see people putting him as a 4, but if you have a good run game, he's part of that run game, you can win, an executive said. I don't want to play him because the way he can run the football. He is a dimension in this league that this league does not have. He is Jalen Hurts on nitroglycerin. Fast, strong, physical, tough. I would not give up on him. I think that's all what we've been saying about him. You know what I mean? I think that that's pretty dead on. He is hard to play against. As for Russ, he got 3 Tier 2 votes, 35 Tier 3 votes, which is right in the middle, and 12 Tier 4 votes. If you look at his career, he spends much of his time in Tier 2, but not lately. I mean, he has dropped each of the last 4 years. This is what they say about him. This is a 4th consecutive year that Wilson has fallen in tiers since he entered 2022 as a unanimous Tier 1 selection. So 2020, he was a unanimous Tier 1 selection, but has dropped every year since. An assistant GM said, I would not be surprised if he has success in Pittsburgh because of the culture and the system. Wilson will play under a potential future Hall of Fame head coach for the 3rd time after starting with Pete Carroll and bouncing from Sean Payton to Mike Tomlin. I think that's interesting and noteworthy. Another quote. To me, he'd be a 5 if it wasn't for Tomlin, an offensive coordinator said. Tomlin is a psychologist. He can push the right buttons. However good Russell Wilson could be, Mike Tomlin will figure it out. So Wilson's slide this offseason was only about 1/3 as large as the slide he suffered in 2023. I don't think that will go well with Sean. I didn't think that would go well with Sean Payton. I feel bad for all the scrutiny he has faced, some of which he brings on himself. I just don't think he sees the field well. I see a guy that played a certain way and was able to do it at a high level for a certain period of time, and I just don't think he has the athleticism to play that way. Another head coach said he thought Wilson remained good enough to get you in and out of games. The very definition of a veteran player straddling that line between Tier 3 and 4. The Steelers have yet to decide whether Wilson or Fields will start in Week 1. That's not true anymore. When you look at the stats in Denver, Russ did not play bad, a defensive coordinator said. He just was not a good fit with Sean. Let's see what he does this year. He can throw the deep ball. Boy, can he throw the deep ball. Okay, I think those are all very fair criticisms and analysis. Not all bad. The last thing I want to talk about today is part 2 of what Mike Sando does for this. So after he accumulates all the votes, does the quarterback ranks, puts them in tiers, he then looks at every team's schedule and says, who's playing the toughest slate of quarterbacks? Who's playing the easiest slate of quarterbacks? Example, the teams playing the easiest slate of quarterbacks is the Atlanta Falcons. The Bears are next. The Jags after that. The Bengals and Chargers round out the 5 teams scheduled to face the easiest slate of quarterbacks. Now, one thing I would maybe suggest to Mike is the chances that you play all these guys lessen every week. You know what I mean? Because people are going to get hurt. We've had almost 70 starters in each of the last 2 years. So if the Steelers hypothetically were playing the Ravens in Week 1 and the Ravens in Week 18, there's a much better chance you play Lamar in Week 1 than Week 18. The first half of the schedule, this holds up more than all the way through. Anyway, it's still an interesting exercise. So the teams playing the hardest slate of quarterbacks. The Patriots have the hardest schedule against quarterbacks. The Raiders are second. The Steelers are 3. The Niners have the 4th hardest slate, and the Broncos the 5th. Oh, by the way, the Browns and Ravens come in 6 and 7 to round out the division. So the division obviously plays difficult quarterbacks. But the Steelers, they have 3 games against Tier 1 guys. Mahomes, Burrow twice. They play a lot of games against Tier 2 guys. Lamar twice, Herbert, Rodgers, Dak, Hurts, Cousins. Only 2 games against tier 3 players, that's Deshaun Watson. And then their tier 4 games are against Daniel Jones, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Daniels, Bo Nix. Which you have to put the young guys at the bottom. But they're a bit of a wild card. I mean, we don't know that Anthony Richardson's going to be easy to play against, or Jalen Daniels for that matter, so that part is very subject to change. All right, folks, I've been giving you a lot of content a lot of days in a row. You're not going to get anything for the next couple days, but I'll come back at you heavy as we prepare for week 1. How about that? Over and out.